Hi, everyone, and welcome to the behind-the-scenes version of Inside Investigations. Our senior investigative producer, Marnie Zambri, joins me to talk about Florida lockout. You watched it. Well, here's the real story behind the scenes. Go.
Well, you say go. I can't put it in a thumbnail because this, even though this takes place down in Florida, it really began here in Georgia, and it took us about a year and a half to unwind the string.
So let me tell the 60-second
You tell
version.
it.
Okay, so we come across a kid who is 19 years old. He's driving his employer's truck. He locks his keys in his car. He panics, looks at his cell phone, calls the first company that he Googles. And that company comes out and they tell him it's going to be $30 to unlock his car. They arrive on the scene and suddenly it's $260 to unlock the car. He panics, he pays the bill, he goes home and he tells Mom. Mom calls Inside Investigations, and we start setting this company up. We start surveilling them to see if they're doing this as a practice. Number one, we find out, yes, indeed, they're doing it as a practice. But number two, one of our producers uncovers a lawsuit from 4 years earlier where when the victim was confronted with a higher bill, that victim said, I don't have that kind of money. The locksmith suggested that he go to his local ATM and withdraw the money. The victim gets in his car. He leaves the parking lot. It turns into a chase. The locksmith is chasing the victim down a road. The locksmith and the victim are close together. The locksmith loses control of his car, and he goes up on the side of a hill and hits and kills 2 girls. We find this lawsuit and we realize, Marnie, we have maybe the biggest story of our careers in terms of impact. Because not only did this locksmith and locksmith company kill 2 girls, but they continued the practice of bait and switch and overcharging people for years after they should have been discovered then.
Yeah. So when we got up with it, when we caught up with this story, we started to show the pattern again that they were continuing to do this, and we took it to the Georgia Department of Justice and presented it to him and say, how can this guy continue to practice this business and continue to do this business when these 2 girls were killed as a result of his business practices?
The good news is that the Georgia Attorney General investigated and found Gabriel Yagal Amram in violation of the Georgia Fair Business Practices Act and fined him $328,000.
You might be off or on.
Off 10,000 or so.
But it was a significant fine.
And forced him to shut down.
He did shut down.
Good news,
no.
not so fast.
No. And this is the craziness. So we found that he just went south. He left Georgia, went to Florida, paid $125 for a business license, and started the same business down in Sarasota, Florida, where he was a locksmith again. He did not pay the fine that was levied against him in the state of Georgia, and he was doing this again. Same operation. He had a boiler room where they would take calls and they would field it out to all these different locksmiths that would unlock cars. What we did find, because then we decided we're going to go down there and we're going to confront him again, because he basically got away without ever paying the fine. And as a result, there were 2 people that were sitting in jail and 2 young girls that were dead.
Okay, so let me catch you up on that. When this was going on in Georgia, the locksmith and the victim had to stand trial because both were charged with vehicular homicide. The locksmith testified against the victim, and that's why the victim wound up getting convicted.
I'm going to stop you because it's very confusing. So what I'm going to tell people to do is that we did a half-hour show on this on TrustDALE Investigates, and it's called Locked Out, and it really gives you a comprehensive look, and you can see it on our YouTube page, and I think that we're going to have it on this page as well, that folks can take a look at it.
Good idea.
But check it out. So anyways, we went down to Florida. We wanted to catch him in the act doing the same sort of things. So most of what we had to do, and what you saw that we previewed, is that we couldn't record what they were saying to us. So as an undercover producer, a lot of the times I couldn't be mic'd. Normally, we can be mic'd, you can hear what's going on. The photographer can hear what's going on some 20 feet away. He can come to help me if I need help. But in this particular piece of video that we showed and that you see here, nobody could hear what was going on. And I had called the locksmith, and little did I know that it was going to be the same locksmith that we had called earlier in the day. He came. That was our first red flag. But less than 5 minutes after I got there, at the corner of my eye, I see
Gabriel Yagel Amram.
Yeah, I see him. And I had already been down there once, and he had unlocked my car probably a month prior. And here he was again. And I'm sitting in the driver's seat. At this time, you'll see I put my hair back up in the hat because I think, oh gosh, he's going to know who I am because he unlocked my car before. Second of all, I realized that the hat I'm wearing is the same hat our other producer was wearing
earlier in the day,
2 hours previous. So I'm getting really nervous, and Yagel, we call him Yagel because that's his Amram. He comes around to the car and he starts to question me about why did I call him to unlock my car. And this seems very suspicious that I'm calling him to unlock the car because they've had a few of these already in the day where people have called to say that they had locked their keys in their car, and it's very unusual for them to have this volume.
Okay, so he's confronting Marnie. We can't hear the exchange, and he apparently is getting pretty demonstrative.
Well,
and you're kind of scared.
Yeah, I was kind of, he is getting, first of all, I'm thinking that he might know who I am. Secondly, he is getting kind of aggressive with me, saying, I don't believe that your car was locked. We think that our competition is doing surveillance on us, and what he's insinuating is that I'm part of that. Well, of course I wasn't part of his competition, but we were surveilling him. And he's getting in my face and getting really aggressive, and he's showing me paperwork that shows that the prices that they charge for a lockout are fair in the state of Florida. You know, he could see that he was making me anxious, but he didn't know why he was making me anxious. So I tried to take myself out of that situation and think, if I was a customer and this guy is in my face, getting in my car, these two big guys, what would I do? And so at some point, because you guys didn't know what was going on, I had sent you a text that said, something's not right. But instead of you guys coming to help me, you just kept rolling.
Because you're a professional.
Yeah. And I mean, what did you want me to do? But I finally said to him, I go, you know, you're really making me nervous. You're making me uncomfortable. And that's when he started to back off because he realized, well, maybe this is a customer and she's going to write a bad review saying that I was threatening her.
So to wrap up, here's the problem. He was able to go across the state line and hang out a shingle and start doing the same practice again without anyone stopping him. Here's what we discovered down in Sarasota. None of the local authorities would lift a finger to do anything. They wouldn't even go on camera with us to discuss it. They're all petrified of being seen as being in favor of regulation. And so because they're petrified of being seen as in favor of regulation, they'll let this shark operate with impunity. And so your only defense is to see this story because he's doing it today as far as we know.
As far as we know.
And his colleagues.
Yeah. So, and just, that's a microcosm. It goes on around the whole United States.
Yeah, so I'm glad you were able to watch this story, but be sure to check out Lethal Lockout because you'll learn from it and share it with your friends. Thank you, Marnie. I'm glad you're still here with us, and we'll see you guys next time.